My name is Rachel Hutto, and I am a registered and licensed dietitian. And today we're going to talk about some misconceptions of healthy eating. So the first misconception that we're going to talk about is that healthy food is too expensive. Whenever you walk into the fruit and vegetable area, we actually see that a lot of our fruits and vegetables are relatively well priced. If you go and grab a bag of Brussels sprouts, they're probably going to be about $2 to $3. If you go and grab a bag of Lay's chips, they're probably going to be about $4 to $5. So it's really hard to maybe look at it in the overall realm. However, if we're grabbing a handful of healthy foods and we're going to go home and cook them and consume them, a lot of the times we can make a meal for four in about $20 to $25. And if we go to McDonald's and we're going to buy for four, we're probably going to spend $25 to $35 plus dollars. And so that misconception is a really big one that we should definitely overcome and think of what the actual price is if we're looking at it at the store versus if we're going to a fast food place. The second thing that we're going to talk about is that a lot of people think that I can't eat fat and still have a healthy diet. And that is completely untrue. It's very important that we have fat in our diet. Fat helps us digest things like fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K. We have to have fat intake to be able to digest and metabolize those. We also need fat for just simple protection in our bodies. And so we should have some type of fat intake, and we should have some fat in our bodies as well. We need essential fatty acids from fat intake to keep our hair healthy, our skin healthy, our nails. And so all of those things are really important. We should really focus on keeping our saturated fats less than 10% of our caloric intake and focus on things such as unsaturated fats that are considered heart healthy, such as olive oil, canola oil, and things like that. Another misconception is that you can't eat carbohydrates to be healthy. And so that's a really big misconception because our overall caloric intake should be primarily carbohydrates. We are really looking for 40 to 65% of our caloric intake coming from carbohydrates because it's our body's main source of energy. There's a lot of really great things that we find from carbohydrates. We find things like fiber that is heart healthy. It's also really healthy for our digestive tract. And we also find a lot of vitamins in phytochemicals in fruits and vegetables and other types of carbohydrate containing foods. Another misconception is that we should eat multiple meals a day in smaller portions very consistently to be able to maintain or lose weight and be healthy. And so it really, at the end of the day, a lot of our weight fluctuations are going to come from calories in versus calories out. If we have a decrease in overall caloric intake throughout the day, we lose weight. If we have too many calories throughout the day, we gain weight. So whether that comes from multiple meals a day, whether that comes from several meals a day, the most important thing is that we're getting in enough vitamins, enough minerals, enough calories from all of our different macronutrients, including fat, protein, and carbohydrates. The next misconception that we're going to talk about is that we can't eat past a certain time in the evening. And again, that goes back to calories in versus calories out. And while there is some research that might sway one way or the other, there's no real general conception to say this is the recommendation and that you should stop eating at this point in time at night. Obviously, we don't want to eat at midnight because a lot of the times those are going to be things that like we're just grabbing something unhealthy off the shelves. So a lot of the times maybe our nighttime consumption is something that isn't the healthiest option. And so that's where a lot of people kind of get into bad situations or maybe an unhealthy trend. However, if we're grabbing vegetables, we're eating what we would have eaten at dinner a little bit later, that can all still fit in your day. Another misconception about being healthy is that I can just exercise my way out and I can be healthy because I exercise. And so I think that is a very detrimental thought process because exercise is extremely important. So that's the first thing that I want to say. It's important. We should all be exercising on a daily basis, and that should be part of our normal lives. However, just because we are being in a calorie deficit or we are thin because we work out or something of the sorts, have lots of muscle mass, that doesn't overplay what we're not getting in our diets. That doesn't give us vitamins. It doesn't give us minerals. It doesn't give us phytochemicals that help us with anti-inflammatory processes. You can't get that from working out. So it's really important that we're still focusing on having a well-rounded, healthy diet as well.